Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a new report that paints a pretty stark picture of Russia's future. And it all really boils down to one specific group. It's young people. So we're going to break down what this all means.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a quote that really sets the tone. The report uses this incredibly heavy term, a lost generation. And as we're about to see, this isn't just about spreadsheets and numbers. It's about the very potential of a country being hollowed out from the inside.
So, what does a lost generation actually look like on the ground? Well, the way this report puts it, it's like a series of closing walls being methodically built around Russia's youth. Let's go ahead and explore exactly what those walls are. So, the main takeaway here, the central argument of the whole report, is that current policies have set an entire generation on a very clear trajectory of decline. And we're not just talking about one single problem here. This is a decline that's hitting them from all sides, a kind of systemic decay that's affecting basically every aspect of a young person's life and, what they can hope for in the future. All right, so let's start with the first wall. And it's the most immediate, the most brutal one, the staggering human cost of the war in Ukraine. I mean, just look at these numbers. We're talking about projected casualties between 200,000 and 300,000 people, and the vast majority of them are young men. This is a direct drain on the country's youth demographic. And this is so crucial to understand. This isn't just a military statistic. It's a massive demographic wound. So when the source material calls them a lost generation, it's really pointing to that long-term societal damage that's going to ripple out for decades to come. And this is where you really see how the war is just pouring gasoline on an already burning fire. The country was already facing a demographic crisis with a birth rate way below what's needed to sustain the population. Losing hundreds of thousands of young men, well, that just makes the crisis that much deeper. Okay, so the next wall, it's not a physical one on a battlefield. This is the one being built inside people's minds, inside the classroom. So what the report lays out here is basically this pipeline. It's a systematic process with three main stages. It starts with kids as young as 8 in this youth army. It continues in the classroom where history itself is being rewritten, and then it's reinforced day in and day out by state media. It's not random. It's a pipeline designed to militarize an entire generation. But here's the other side of that coin. While some are being pushed through this pipeline, a whole lot of Russia's brightest, well, they're just getting out. This number, 1.2 million, represents a massive brain drain of skilled young people who just don't see a future for themselves inside these closing walls. And these walls, they don't just stop at the border or at the classroom door. Nope, they extend right into the digital and social worlds where young people actually live. I mean, look at this number, over 5,000. That's how many young activists have been arrested or slapped with this foreign agent label since 2022. It's become this incredibly powerful tool to silence anyone with an independent thought. And the result of that crackdown? Well, you can see it right here in the data. It creates this chilling effect on any kind of public participation. A 25% drop is huge. It means a generation is essentially learning that to stay safe, you have to stay silent and disconnected from public life. This quote really hits home because it captures that sense of deep cultural isolation. This was never just about losing access to funny videos or pictures. For a huge majority of young people, these platforms were their primary connection to global culture, to new ideas. And now that window has just been slammed shut. All right, this brings us to the final set of walls, the ones being built around their actual future, their prosperity, and even their health. We're talking about the economic and environmental mess they're set to inherit. This comparison says it all, doesn't it? Just look at where the money is going. You can see this massive pivot in national priorities. Funds are being pulled directly away from things like education and social programs, investments in the next generation, to fuel the war effort. And at the exact same time, both the war itself and this domestic neglect are creating a looming environmental crisis. You've got toxins poisoning the land, massive budget cuts gutting conservation efforts. The next generation is literally being left with a more degraded and hazardous homeland. Okay, so we've looked at all these different walls: the war, indoctrination, social control, the economy. So what's the cumulative toll? What does it actually feel like to be a young person living inside all of this? This is where we see the real human cost. The data in the report points to a pretty serious mental health crisis unfolding. There's a big spike in trauma and anxiety, a growing feeling of isolation, and this dangerous erosion of social trust as propaganda just normalizes violence. This is the personal, psychological price being paid.
And this might be the most sobering takeaway of the entire report. The damage we're talking about, it isn't temporary. Even under the most optimistic, best-case scenarios, the projections show it would take more than a decade for this generation to even begin to recover.
Which leaves us with this final, really thought-provoking question. Forget the economic statistics for a second. If all of these walls, the physical, the mental, the digital, if they all just came down tomorrow, how long would it actually take for a generation to heal, to truly rebuild its future?